Hello friends. Imagine a person whose very essence is contradiction, light and shadow, freedom and responsibility, charm and chaos. That's what you get when the Gemini soul is born in the year of the pig. This fascinating combination fuses the airiness of Mercury with the earthy benevolence of the 12th sign in the Chinese zodiac, creating an individual who is witty, emotionally generous, but surprisingly deep when the laughter fades. So who are these people, really? Let's step into their world, into their hearts, their beds, their boardrooms, and even their darker corners, and see what makes them so unforgettable. Love, the push and pull of emotion. For a Gemini born in the year of the pig, love isn't a steady current, it's a storm front that shifts between golden sunshine and sudden downpours. It's intense, alive, multidimensional. This is the kind of person who doesn't just want a relationship, they want a love story, something vivid, poetic, and real enough to leave fingerprints on the soul. One day, they're spontaneous romantics sending you lyrics that made them think of you. The next, they're introspective philosophers questioning what love really means. With them, love is an evolving narrative, not a fixed state. If you're looking for consistency in emotional temperature, brace yourself. This is a wild ride with a warm core. They fall in love with speed and boldness, like someone who jumps into the ocean without testing the water first. For them, it's not about logic, it's about connection, intuition, spark. A clever glance, a shared laugh, a brush of the hand, these micro moments light a match in their heart. But unlike the flighty image often associated with Gemini, this version of love is made more tender and real by the pig's influence. Pigs in the Chinese zodiac are loyal, romantic, and emotionally open. Combine that with Gemini's wit and curiosity, and you get someone who doesn't just want butterflies, they want the whole garden. They yearn for a kind of love that grows, blooms, withers, and regrows. Something cyclical, something honest. Conversation is their oxygen. They aren't just lovers, they're lifelong dialoguers. Talking is their way of bonding, of testing compatibility, of building trust. A perfect relationship for them feels like a never-ending discussion that dances between silly and soul-deep. They thrive on flirtation, on intellectual teasing, on mutual wonder. Ask them weird questions, debate something pointless for hours. Dive into your fears and dreams. That's how they know it's real. Physical intimacy matters, sure, but it's the mental intimacy that hooks them long-term. Love without conversation feels like a beautiful shell with nothing inside. But this emotional alchemy comes at a cost. They're unpredictable. Their moods shift like the wind, often driven by an internal tug of war between desire and doubt. Just when things seem perfect, they may suddenly retreat, not because they've stopped loving, but because something inside them whispers, "Is this all there is?" They're terrified of routine, allergic to stagnation. If they feel boxed in or emotionally muted, they'll seek chaos to reawaken the spark. That could mean questioning the relationship, provoking a fight, or mentally checking out. And yet, these moments of sabotage aren't malicious, they're cries for aliveness. Deep down, they're not afraid of commitment, they're afraid of dying in it. They fear becoming numb, invisible, ordinary. They want a connection that grows with them, not one that confines them. The pig's loyalty pulls them toward long-term love, while the Gemini's restless heart pulls them toward freedom. It's this internal paradox that defines their romantic life. They are simultaneously the dreamer and the doubter, the believer and the skeptic. They love intensely, but they need that love to be dynamic, flexible, ever-evolving. Otherwise, they start to feel trapped in their own fairy tale. The right partner for a Gemini pig is someone who offers both safety and spontaneity. Someone who doesn't try to cage their energy but also doesn't vanish when the winds change. A lover who inspires without demanding, who supports without controlling, and who understands that love is not always linear, especially not with this sign. Give them space, stimulate their mind, feed their curiosity, and they'll give you a love so raw, so creative, so human, it will feel like nothing you've ever known. To love a Gemini born in the year of the pig is to enter into a sacred contract of unpredictability and passion. You'll never be bored, but you might be confused. You'll be challenged, but also cherished. They may disappear into their own mind at times, but they'll always come back, if the connection is real. They are lovers who dance between worlds, who speak with both their hands and their silence, who build intimacy like a mosaic, piece by unpredictable piece. If you can handle the storms, you'll find in them not just a partner, but a companion for the most exhilarating, emotionally honest journey of your life. Marriage, a roller coaster with a view. For a Gemini born in the year of the pig, marriage is never just a legal contract or a ceremonial milestone. It's a living, breathing partnership, an evolving journey that mirrors their own quest for personal growth and meaning. Traditional roles and predictable routines don't interest them, not because they reject stability, but because they need their union to feel like an expansion of self, not a reduction. To them, the ideal marriage is a partnership where two complete individuals come together to create something more, without either person losing their identity. It's less about checking life boxes and more about creating a shared story that constantly unfolds. They don't marry for image or convenience, not for social status, not for a checklist. They marry for soul, for the deep recognition of someone who truly sees them, not just the charming, witty, extroverted version they often project, but the vulnerable, sensitive being beneath. The Gemini pig wears many faces in the world, and often hides behind humor or distraction. But in marriage, they crave someone who looks past the sparkle and understands their complexities. They want a partner who can both dance in their light and sit with them in the dark. When they say, "I do," it's not out of obligation. It's a sacred act of trust. Surprisingly to some, once committed, they're deeply loyal. The pig's influence brings warmth, generosity, and an instinct to nurture. These people genuinely want to take care of their loved ones, emotionally, physically, spiritually. They love creating a home that feels alive, filled with laughter, late-night conversations, spontaneous meals, and that perfectly imperfect energy that makes a house feel like a haven. They're the kind of spouse who'll cook your favorite dish just because you had a hard day, or bring home a book they think you'll love. But it all hinges on one thing: emotional freedom. They must feel free to express, evolve, explore, otherwise, their spirit begins to wither. That need for emotional freedom is both their greatest strength and their greatest challenge in marriage. They are not built for emotional imprisonment. If a partner becomes too controlling, critical, or emotionally unavailable, the Gemini pig doesn't usually start a fight, they drift. Quietly, slowly, their body might still be present, but their heart checks out. This isn't always about infidelity in the literal sense, but rather emotional infidelity. They start seeking connection and stimulation elsewhere, through work, friends, art, fantasies, or new social circles. And once that emotional divide grows, it's hard to pull them back without serious effort and open-hearted communication. The root cause of their drifting is often restlessness, not dissatisfaction with the person they've married, but fear that life is passing them by. The Gemini mind is a hungry thing. It needs variety, curiosity, challenges, color. If marriage starts to feel like the same conversation on loop, they'll begin questioning everything. But here's the beautiful paradox. They don't need constant novelty, they just need a partner who grows with them. Someone who lets the relationship evolve. Someone who can say, "We're not who we were a year ago," and that's a good thing. Growth is their love language. Stagnation is their exit sign. The key to a thriving marriage for a Gemini pig lies in emotional elasticity. The partner who succeeds with them doesn't try to lock them down. They hold them gently, with trust and space. They encourage their ideas, support their pursuits, and offer a stable harbor without demanding they stay anchored all the time. This kind of marriage becomes not a cage but a canvas. A shared artwork that both people are constantly painting together. It has layers, textures, wild brush strokes, and sometimes mistakes, but it's alive. It breathes. It speaks of who they are becoming, not just who they were when they said yes. And when it works, oh, how it works. A Gemini born in the year of the pig can be the most devoted, vibrant, and imaginative spouse you could ask for. They'll keep the spark alive long after most couples have let it fade. They'll find new ways to love you, to surprise you, to grow with you. They'll celebrate your wins like they're their own and mourn your losses with sincere tenderness. You won't always have peace, but you'll always have passion. And if you can embrace the uncertainty, you'll discover a depth of love that feels both exhilarating and safe, both childlike and wise. In the end, marriage for a Gemini Pig is a masterpiece in motion. It may twist, it may tilt, but with the right partner, someone who brings patience, emotional depth, humor, and just a dash of chaos, it becomes a lifelong journey of becoming. Not just together, but individually. Because for this sign, the truest love isn't about merging into one. It's about standing side by side as two whole beings, forever evolving, forever dancing, forever choosing each other all over again. Sex, curiosity meets intensity. When it comes to intimacy, a Gemini born in the year of the Pig approaches sex not just as an act, but as an exploration. For them, the bedroom isn't a destination. It's a journey filled with texture, imagination, surprise, and subtle emotional shifts. It's an open space where curiosity meets vulnerability, where touch becomes a language and sensation becomes a story. They don't come into intimacy with a script, they come with questions. What makes you melt? What haven't you told anyone else? What happens if we try something no one's tried before? Their desire is rooted in wonder, a thirst to know you in ways words can't express. Their sexual energy is intensely curious. They're not fixated on technique or performance. They want connection, experience, the blending of two inner worlds through pleasure. They want to explore not only your body, but the emotions behind it, the psychology underneath it, the fantasies that shape it. There's no one-size-fits-all with them. They adjust, experiment, respond. One night they may be playful and teasing, the next, intense and soulful. They thrive on variation, trying new settings, new rhythms, new dynamics. But it's never about shock value. It's about finding the secret door in your intimacy and opening it gently. What makes them truly remarkable lovers is their instinct. They're emotionally intuitive and physically perceptive. They read people like novels, and your body is no exception. Every breath, every pause, every shift in tone becomes a clue. They'll pick up on what you don't say and respond accordingly. Just when you think you've figured out their rhythm, the way they touch, the pace they like, they'll switch it up. Not to confuse you, but to keep the energy alive. Boredom is their enemy, and surprise is their love language. If they sense stagnation in bed, they'll rewrite the whole script. New plot, new genre, new ending. The Pig's influence deepens their sensual nature in a beautifully human way. Where Gemini brings the mental stimulation and imagination, the Pig adds an earthy, tactile richness. This person lives for ambiance. The soft lighting, the scent in the room, the music playing faintly in the background, the fabric of the sheets, the temperature of your skin. They know that sex doesn't begin with the first kiss, it begins with how they make you feel hours before. A well-placed glance, a suggestive text, a lingering brush of the hand. They know how to build anticipation like a slow crescendo, how to craft an experience that begins in the mind and lands in the body. They're also skilled at mental seduction, and sometimes that's where they're at their most powerful. They'll tease your brain, make you laugh, challenge your opinions, and ask just the right question to make you pause and feel seen. For them, sex and conversation are closely intertwined. If you can't connect with them mentally, physical chemistry won't hold. But when both are in sync, when their mind and body are equally engaged, they become magnetic, irresistible, and almost addictive. Their energy feels like a mix of comfort and edge, familiar enough to trust, surprising enough to excite. However, their greatest erotic challenge is focus. The Gemini mind is fast-moving and scattered, prone to distraction, even in the middle of pleasure. One moment they're entirely present, the next, they've mentally drifted to a half-finished idea, a stray thought, or a sudden urge to shift gears. It's not because they're disengaged, but because their brain is wired for multiplicity. They feel many things at once: curiosity, self-awareness, fantasy, playfulness. This can make them amazing improvisers in bed, but also inconsistent lovers if they're emotionally tired or overwhelmed. What they need most is variety rooted in meaning. It's not enough to just switch positions or buy new lingerie. They want emotional freshness. A change in mood, in dynamic, in intention. They need a partner who isn't afraid to explore, to initiate, to match their mental and emotional depth. Someone who respects their need for space, but also keeps them intrigued. When their partner brings presence, imagination, and a willingness to co-create, the Gemini Pig becomes fully unlocked, and when they're fully present, their passion is explosive, creative, and deeply affirming. To make love with a Gemini born in the year of the Pig is to enter into something bigger than passion. It's a full-body dialogue, a mutual performance of truth. It's fingers tracing words they don't know how to say aloud. It's emotion wrapped in skin, pleasure tied to curiosity. It's laughter in the dark and silence that still speaks. They're not looking for perfection, they're looking for resonance. For that magical moment when they know, without question, that they've been both desired and understood. And when that happens, they don't just light your body on fire, they warm your soul too. Friendship, the magnetic social chameleon. To befriend a Gemini born in the year of the Pig is to sign up for a ride that's equal parts unpredictable joyride and soul-level companionship. This is not the kind of friend who shows up in your life quietly and slips into the background. No, they crash into your world like a confetti cannon of charisma, intelligence, and wit. They're the person who always has the perfect thing to say, whether it's a hilarious comeback, a comforting insight, or a brutally honest truth wrapped in laughter. Their energy is impossible to ignore. Being around them is like sitting in a room with every window open, fresh, invigorating, and always moving. They are true social shapeshifters, able to hold court in almost any setting. Introverts love them because they don't force connection. Extroverts love them because they bring the party. Whether it's an art gallery opening, a dive bar karaoke night, or a casual hangout at someone's kitchen table, they somehow make everything feel like an occasion. And the wildest part? They remember the little things. Your favorite pizza topping, that obscure band you mentioned once in passing, the fact that your mom was sick last month. Underneath the laughter and mischief is someone who actually pays attention. Deeply, quietly, constantly. And yet, for all their outward sociability, their real tribe is small. While they can charm 100 people in one evening, very few get past their carefully curated emotional threshold. It's not that they're closed off, it's that they're selective. Trust isn't given lightly. To truly be counted among their inner circle is an honor earned over time, not handed out at first meeting. Those who make it into that sacred space, they get everything: fierce loyalty, late-night pep talks, hilarious memes at 3 a.m., and the kind of emotional availability that makes you feel like the most understood person in the room. When they call you a friend, they mean it. Friendship with them is anything but routine. One moment you're discussing conspiracy theories or laughing about a shared inside joke, and the next, they're asking you about your childhood trauma or existential purpose. They're endlessly curious, not just about the world, but about you. They want to know what drives you, scares you, fuels you. That curiosity can sometimes border on intensity, but it's never intrusive. It's sincere, and it creates space for conversations that linger in your mind long after they end. You never feel invisible around a Gemini Pig. They see you, even the parts you're still figuring out for yourself. But don't expect a squeaky clean friendship all the time. They can be a little gossipy, a little chaotic, and very prone to overcommitting socially, which means they might ghost a plan or double book by accident. It's rarely personal. Their calendar is just a reflection of their ever-active mind, overflowing, enthusiastic, occasionally disorganized. However, what they lack in punctuality, they make up for in presence. When they're with you, they're fully with you. No faking, no half-listening, just genuine engagement, often with laughter, often with tea to spill, and always with heart. What really sets them apart as a friend is the Pig's emotional core. Underneath the Gemini's flirty banter and quicksilver intellect is someone incredibly compassionate. If you're hurting, really hurting, they'll drop everything to be by your side. They won't offer cliches or platitudes. They'll offer comfort, distraction, perspective, or silence, whatever you need. They'll show up with soup, playlists, or just their presence. They are protectors disguised as party people, healers wrapped in humor. And they feel your pain almost as deeply as their own, even if they won't always admit it out loud. However, one line must never be crossed: deception. They can forgive a lot: disorganization, emotional outbursts, even a temporary ghosting, but lying is unforgivable. Betray their trust, and the door closes quickly and permanently. This is where the pig's idealism and Gemini's mental precision collide. They'll try to understand your motives, maybe even offer you one last chance, but once they feel manipulated or played, that connection dies. Not loudly, not dramatically, but with a silent finality that leaves no room for return. Being friends with a Gemini born in the year of the pig is a gift and a challenge. You'll laugh more than you ever thought possible. You'll think deeper, feel more, and expand your sense of what friendship can be. They will mirror your best self back to you, call you out with love, and cheer you on with wild enthusiasm. They'll challenge your assumptions, teach you how to embrace change, and offer you the kind of connection that feels both timeless and brand new. This isn't a surface-level friendship. This is the kind that transforms you, not by force, but by invitation. You don't just gain a friend, you gain a co-conspirator in joy, a witness to your life, and a steady hand in moments of chaos. With them, friendship becomes an ever-changing, always beautiful work of art. Business, creativity, chaos, and big wins. In the world of business, a Gemini born in the year of the pig is not just a player, they're a disruptor, a creator, and a visionary who redefines what success looks like. They walk into a room full of rigid thinkers and turn everything on its head with a single idea no one else saw coming. Their mind is a constant brainstorm, full of angles, innovations, and insights that make traditional systems feel outdated the moment they open their mouth. Where others see limits, they see loops, shortcuts, patterns, and possibilities. Their business mind isn't linear, it's multidimensional. They think fast, adapt faster, and speak in pitches that sound like TED Talks before the slides are even made. Gemini alone would already make them flexible and brilliant in communication, but the pig gives their work persona something even more powerful: integrity and purpose. While their Gemini side can float between interests and identities, the pig adds grounding. A need to make their work mean something. They're not in business just to win, they're in it to create, to connect, to contribute. This creates a professional who is passionate, original, and capable of balancing bold risk with heartfelt mission. They are the ultimate multitaskers. Give them a team to lead, a crisis to solve, a client to charm, and a pitch to rewrite, they'll thrive. But tell them to repeat the same task daily without stimulation? You'll lose them fast. Routine is their kryptonite. The 9-to-5 cubicle grind feels like a prison sentence for them unless it includes dynamic collaboration and creative freedom. They require environments where change is constant, innovation is encouraged, and no day looks the same as the last. When their minds are stretched and their input is valued, they produce brilliance. But when locked into bureaucratic patterns or micromanaged to death, they mentally evacuate the building. Their professional sweet spot lies in industries that are fast-moving, expressive, or idea-driven. Communication-based roles? Perfect. Advertising, public relations, branding, journalism. They excel where words meet imagination. Visual mediums? Even better. They make excellent designers, videographers, or stylists, because they instinctively understand what catches the eye. Tech and entrepreneurship are also natural fits. Their ability to forecast trends and recognize untapped markets makes them invaluable in startup culture or digital innovation. They can speak the language of the next generation before it becomes common tongue. These are the people who start apps, launch movements, or rebrand legacy companies overnight. But for all their brilliance, they aren't always consistent, especially in follow-through. Starting something? They're pros. The concept stage? They light it on fire. But completing a long-term project, staying committed through the boring middle, following up on the 5th email? That's where things wobble. Their Gemini mind gets distracted by new ideas, while the pig part of them quietly hopes someone else will pick up the execution. To finish strong, they need either a partner who balances them out or a system that forces momentum. When passion meets process in their world, the outcome is jaw-dropping. When it doesn't, you're left with 10 amazing beginnings and no final chapter. Another fascinating dimension to their business energy is how they relate to money. They have a magnetic relationship with wealth. They attract it naturally through connections, charisma, and opportunities that seem to fall into their lap. They know how to pitch, how to promote, and how to turn a side hustle into something scalable. But keeping money? That's a different story. Their spending tends to reflect their moods. One day they're budgeting and investing smartly, and the next they're dropping cash on a spontaneous trip or a shiny new gadget because, well, why not? Financial advisors were practically invented for people like them, not because they're reckless, but because they're dreamers. And sometimes dreams have expensive taste. Despite the occasional chaos, they thrive in crisis. When things fall apart, the Gemini Pig gets better. Their brain sharpens, their instincts kick in, while others freeze or panic. They start building a plan B and C and D. They work well under pressure, not because they like stress, but because it wakes up every neuron in their body. High-stakes business moments, client emergencies, product launches, negotiations, are where they shine the most. Their adaptability becomes a superpower. Their communication skills become a weapon. And their emotional intelligence, boosted by the pig's compassion, lets them lead with both strength and humanity. What makes them especially compelling in leadership is their authenticity. They may be playful and unpredictable, but they care deeply about people, about impact, about creating something bigger than themselves. Their team will feel inspired, challenged, and supported. They'll push people to take risks and think bigger, but they'll also know when someone's burning out. They don't lead with ego, they lead with energy. They build culture, they foster trust, and they turn the workplace into something that feels less like a machine and more like a living organism. To do business with a Gemini born in the year of the pig is to step into a world of speed, color, vision, and feeling. It's rarely predictable, often chaotic, but almost always worth it. They'll take you places you didn't expect to go, professionally, creatively, financially. They're the spark plug, the visionary, the rainmaker who might forget where they put their keys but never forget the essence of what makes a business matter. Give them freedom, feed them purpose, and you'll witness a kind of brilliance that doesn't just generate profit, it changes the game entirely. Dark sides, the storm beneath the surface. Every bright light casts a shadow, and for the Gemini born in the year of the pig, that shadow doesn't just flicker, it sometimes takes over the entire stage. These individuals are often celebrated for their charm, their quick wit, their boundless creativity, and emotional intelligence. But beneath that magnetic exterior lies a complicated, contradictory inner world, one filled with emotional currents that can shift without warning. The same traits that make them so captivating, their mental speed, their emotional sensitivity, their hunger for experience, can also become their biggest saboteurs. Their darkness doesn't come from malice. It comes from overload, too many thoughts, too many feelings, too many versions of themselves battling for control. Indecisiveness is one of their sharpest inner struggles, and it affects nearly every area of life. Their Gemini nature is wired to analyze, question, explore. Their mind spins constantly, generating dozens of perspectives at once. Add the pig's emotional depth, the need to feel secure in every choice, and you have a recipe for chronic hesitation. They don't waffle because they're flaky. They spiral because they want to make the right choice, the meaningful one, the one that aligns with their heart and their logic and their future self. But when too many variables flood in, they freeze. Whether it's choosing a career path, committing to a relationship, or even picking what project to focus on that week, they can spend so long deliberating that the window of opportunity closes before they act. This indecision leads to a vicious cycle. Delay breeds anxiety, anxiety breeds self-doubt, and self-doubt breeds regret. And when they look back on missed chances, they often beat themselves up with a depth that others don't see. They don't just fear making the wrong choice, they fear becoming the kind of person who doesn't know who they are. This existential tension follows them like a shadow, making them question not just what to do next, but who they are at their core. Another dark thread in their emotional tapestry is impulsiveness, not the fun, spontaneous kind, but the kind that erupts from pressure and emotion. When pushed too far, or when they feel emotionally overwhelmed, they may lash out without warning. Say things they don't mean. Make snap decisions they'll instantly regret. One moment they're laughing with you, and the next they're cold, distant, or deeply irritable. This volatility is confusing for those around them, especially because they often mask it with humor or distraction. But inside, there's a storm of conflicting needs, the desire to connect battling the fear of losing control. Their moods can turn on a dime, not because they're unstable, but because they feel everything so acutely: joy, sorrow, fear, jealousy, love. Their sensitivity, inherited from the pig, makes them emotionally reactive, while the Gemini's mental processing pushes them to overanalyze every emotional reaction they have. The result? Inner chaos. They may withdraw suddenly, disappear into themselves, or emotionally disconnect as a defense mechanism. Friends and partners are often left wondering what they did wrong, when the truth is, the Gemini pig is trying to protect their vulnerable core from getting overwhelmed. Perhaps their most hidden dark side is the emotional mask they wear so well. They are masters of performance, charming, funny, engaging, and they enjoy playing that role. But it's a double-edged sword. Over time, this mask becomes armor, and the more it's praised, the harder it is for them to take it off. Underneath that persona often lies a deep fear of rejection or not being enough when they're not entertaining, inspiring, or fixing things. They worry that if people saw them without the charisma, the tired, insecure, messy version of themselves, they wouldn't stick around. When this fear gets too loud, they retreat emotionally. They stop sharing their truth. They smile when they're broken. They become experts at curating connection without ever letting you too close. In extreme cases, this can lead to manipulative behaviors, using charm to distract, deflecting with humor, pretending to be fine while secretly resenting the emotional labor of holding everything together. Not because they're trying to deceive, but because they're scared that authenticity might cost them love. If betrayed or wounded, this emotional retreat deepens into something more permanent. They don't explode in revenge, they vanish. Emotionally first, physically second. They shut the door without a sound, and once it's closed, it's nearly impossible to pry open again. What's heartbreaking is that this withdrawal isn't cold-hearted, it's a survival response. When deeply hurt, they may become emotionally numb, building up layers of protective detachment. And in those shadows, they sometimes play roles instead of living truth. They might pretend to be okay, to be in control, to be over it, all while their inner world is still grieving, still raging, still unsure how to move forward. The ultimate path to healing these dark tendencies is radical honesty, not just with others, but with themselves. They must learn to sit with their feelings without escaping into busyness, performance, or intellectualizing. They must stop running from discomfort and instead ask, what is this teaching me? Vulnerability is terrifying to them, but it's also the gateway to real transformation. The more they own their complexity, the indecision, the moods, the fear of exposure, the more power they gain. Not power over others, but power over the storm inside. Because when a Gemini pig learns to accept their contradictions instead of suppressing them, they become more grounded, more whole. They begin to realize that their shadow isn't their enemy, it's their teacher. That their emotions don't have to be mastered, just understood. And that the truth they try so hard to hide is often the very thing that brings people closest. The storm beneath the surface may never fully disappear, but with self-awareness, grace, and emotional bravery, it can become the source of their greatest strength. A depth that doesn't drown them, but makes them more human, more compassionate, more real. Life purpose: to communicate and create connection. The life purpose of a Gemini born in the year of the pig isn't just about success, accolades, or even happiness in the conventional sense. It's about creating meaningful impact through the art of expression. These individuals were born with a message on their tongue, a story in their eyes, and an urgency in their soul to make sense of the chaotic, beautiful, fractured world around them. Their journey is not a straight line but a winding path full of detours, experiments, and awakenings. At the center of it all is their need, no, their destiny, to connect people, to each other, to truth, and to themselves. Communication is their superpower. Their words don't just inform, they transform. Whether spoken, written, sung, filmed, performed, or simply shared across a dinner table, their ability to articulate emotion, capture nuance, and bridge misunderstandings is extraordinary. They can speak to the intellectuals and the dreamers in the same breath, weaving together logic and empathy in a way that resonates across boundaries. They're natural translators, not just of language but of feeling. When someone doesn't know how to explain their own heart, a Gemini pig will find the words for them. That is their gift, the ability to give shape to the invisible. Their presence is equally powerful. They don't just walk into rooms, they shift them. There's an energy to them, light, curious, emotionally rich, that wakes people up. They ask the questions no one else dares to. They point out patterns others have missed. They make people feel seen without judgment. And even when they're not trying, they spark transformation by simply being who they are. Someone who holds both intellect and feeling in the same breath. In a culture that often demands one or the other, this duality is quietly revolutionary. They are the natural storytellers of the zodiac, not just spinning tales for entertainment, but telling stories to heal, to reveal, to liberate. Their narratives might come through poetry, performance, conversation, or even business strategies, but the goal is always the same: to build bridges. Bridges between cultures, between perspectives, between inner conflict and outward action. The pig gives them emotional depth and empathy, while Gemini gives them the tools to express it all, sometimes dramatically, sometimes hilariously, but always meaningfully. They are emotional cartographers, mapping out the terrain of the human spirit and inviting others to explore alongside them. But perhaps the deepest layer of their life purpose is not external, it's internal. For all their ability to connect others, their greatest challenge is learning how to stay connected to themselves. Their minds move fast, their emotions run deep. This creates a paradoxical push and pull between motion and stillness, freedom and grounding, change and stability. Their growth lies in learning that depth doesn't mean boredom, and that freedom isn't always about running. Sometimes it's about choosing, again and again, to stay. To be present, to engage with what is, not just what could be. This internal journey is the real soul work. They must learn that evolution doesn't require constant reinvention, that it's okay to rest, to repeat, to commit, and that the relationships and projects worth building are often the ones that ask you to dig deeper, not just move faster. Freedom and commitment are not enemies, they are, for the Gemini pig, sacred dance partners. Only when they embrace both can they fulfill their true purpose. Because when that balance is found, when they stop escaping and start integrating, everything changes. Their words gain new weight. Their art, their work, their love becomes fuller, more enduring. They go from being a spark to a flame, from a voice to a force. They begin to embody the very thing they were always trying to create for others: meaningful connection. And this is where their magic becomes undeniable. They become not just communicators but catalysts, not just bridge builders but architects of empathy. They create ripples in the world that stretch far beyond their own lifetime. They teach people how to speak honestly, how to listen deeply, how to love courageously, even when it's hard, especially when it's messy. Their life purpose is not one job, one relationship, one definition of success. It's a continuous unfolding, a masterpiece in motion. And through every twist and reinvention, they are called to return to this simple, powerful truth: connection is everything. And they were born to build it, nurture it, and be it. So, who is the Gemini born in the year of the pig? They are a living, breathing paradox, a kaleidoscope of contradictions that somehow make perfect sense in the same body. They are the intellectual with a wild sense of humor, the flirt who gives soul-deep advice at 2 a.m., the creative mind who color-codes their calendar, and the emotional sponge who still manages to lead with structure and logic. You can't put them in a box because they'll climb out, redesign it, paint it neon, and turn it into a podcast studio. They are the soul of a poet trapped in the body of a strategist, and that inner duality is not a flaw, it's their magic. They're not just smart, they're multidimensional. Their mind is constantly running at double speed, absorbing information from a dozen directions at once. You'll find them halfway through a marketing campaign, knee-deep in a documentary about ancient mythology, texting a friend a joke, and mentally composing a love letter they'll never send, all at the same time. But don't mistake this mental agility for surface-level interest. The pig within them adds emotional weight, sincerity, and a craving for real substance. They don't want just stimulation, they want it to mean something. They want ideas that make them feel, and feelings that make them think. They are both grounded and restless. They'll pour their heart into a friendship, a cause, a business, but still need the freedom to disappear, to evolve, to not explain where they've been. It's not because they don't care. It's because their inner world demands movement. And yet, there's always something deeply solid about them too. A moral core, a generosity, a softness that shows up when it matters most. They're the friend who makes you laugh until you cry and holds your hand when you do. The colleague who pushes you to do better and the leader who knows when to slow down and just listen. In love, they're complex and unforgettable. They need passion and peace. They want a partner who keeps them guessing but also makes them feel safe. Emotional freedom is everything to them, but so is loyalty. The moment you try to control them, they'll pull away. But if you give them room to breathe and grow, they'll give you their whole heart, not just in romance, but in friendship, family, and creative partnerships too. Relationships for them are not about merging into one. They're about walking side by side, as two full people, choosing each other again and again. In work, they're a beautiful storm of vision and execution, when properly inspired. Their Gemini side dreams big, thinks fast, and sees what's next. The pig side wants that dream to matter, to help, to nourish others. They might be entrepreneurs, artists, teachers, tech founders, writers, or social changemakers, but whatever they do, it needs to have purpose. Give them meaning, creative control, and a little chaos, and you'll get brilliance. Box them in with micromanagement or monotony, and they'll mentally check out before the first coffee break. They're allergic to the uninspired, and drawn to anything that dares to challenge or transform. Emotionally, they are sensitive, sometimes too much so. They feel deeply, even when they hide it well. Their moods can swing like a pendulum, their thoughts can loop like a skipping record. But underneath the occasional whirlwind lies a heart that just wants to be understood, not fixed, not analyzed, not managed, but witnessed. They don't need rescuing, they need resonance. When they find someone who gets them, really gets them, it's like handing a compass to a wandering sailor. They still crave the journey, but now they know which way is home. And let's not forget their humor. It's smart, quick, and often laced with mischief. They can light up a room with a one-liner or completely derail a heavy moment with the perfect joke. Their ability to dance between gravity and levity is unmatched. They can talk politics, philosophy, and psychology, then send a meme that makes you snort coffee through your nose. It's not a coping mechanism. It's how they survive, how they connect, how they remind themselves and everyone around them that even the serious stuff is better when you don't take yourself too seriously. To know them is to be changed by them. You'll come away from every interaction feeling sharper, warmer, a little more curious about life. They challenge you, not aggressively, but through their sheer being. They show you that contradiction isn't chaos, it's depth. That you can be spiritual and skeptical, romantic and independent, driven and playful. They make complexity feel human. And in doing so, they give others permission to be whole. And if you are one, never doubt the brilliance you carry. Don't let the noise of the world convince you you're too much or not enough. Your mind is a gift. Your emotions are a compass. Your voice matters, but remember, your greatest power is not in how fast you move, how much you do, or how brightly you shine. It's in your ability to pause, to go inward, to get quiet enough to hear your own truth beneath the chatter. Because when you slow down enough to use your brilliance with intention, your impact becomes unstoppable. You weren't born to fit the mold. You were born to remake it, to show people what it means to be deeply intelligent and deeply human, at the same time. That's your purpose, that's your power, and that's exactly who you are.